keep moving. Everybody, if you could, come on back to your seats. Love seeing the networking getting started, so thank you for taking our suggestion. We do have lunch not too long from now, so you should be fine from a food perspective. And we're real excited to continue. I mean, we think about the Christopher Columbus conversation earlier, unlocking new lands, spices and silks, right? Connecting the hemispheres. What better way to talk about that now and move it into really actionable insights would be through what we're calling unlocking export. I want to welcome two women to the stage, one at a time. Sanne LeGier is going to join us first. Sanne came to us from the localization business. If you call it localization or translation or globalization or export, many names for it, but really helping companies go global with their products and services. Many, many years in that business. We're fortunate enough to have her join us at Google just maybe 4 or 5 months ago. 6 months ago, sorry, apologies. 6-month mark, which is great. But again, I think it shows our commitment to export and helping you go global with your marketing and your advertising efforts, as well as providing insights on what's happening in those local markets. Then Rachelle Considine is going to join or take over for Sanne kind of midway through, and then walk you through some research that we've just conducted as well, similar to mobile this morning. Rachelle joins us, content marketing firms, years and years in media and marketing, and also pretty new to Google. How many? 9 months. So a couple new Googlers, but really well entrenched in their fields. So if you would, please welcome Sanne LeGier.
Hi, how's everyone doing today? Having good sessions? Good. So as Jay mentioned, my name is Sanne, and I spent over 10 years in the localization industry. I worked with companies such as yourselves on their strive to go global, from an operational perspective all the way up to the strategic aspect. And what I found when I talked to my clients about going global, about expansion, I got a lot of pushback. I heard things like, ooh, we're not there yet. We're just not ready. We just released the big product and our focus is over here. Or others would tell me, it's not in the budget. But maybe if we talk about it, we make a plan, we put it in the budget, and then we have something for the year or the year after. And I kept wondering, do we still have that time? I do understand export is a challenge. It's like a big puzzle. And there are lots of pieces that go into this puzzle, and you need to understand this. So I understand your challenge to bring it all together, to make sense out of it. Well, again, the question, do we still have that time to push it out another year or two? Let me share a number with you, $85 trillion. And that is not this week's jackpot. I wish it was. I would buy some tickets for that. $85 trillion, this is the expected flow of services, goods, or finance by the year 2025. And just to put that in perspective, this is triple the amount we saw in 2012, which was 26 trillion. And to put that even further into perspective, 1990, it took the growth rate was 1.5 over 22 years to get to 26 trillion in 2012. So now in 13 years, we triple this amount. We go twice as fast in half the time. This is how fast global business is expanding and will continue to do so. So now we know global business is there, but who are today's top exporters? I think we all have our ideas who that could be, so let's have a look. In the first spot, it's China with 2.3 trillion. Not that unexpected. Second place, that's us, United States. That's all of your businesses. You grow with the second fastest rate in export, and that is a really, really good achievement. So where do you export to? What are the countries that you target? I know everyone has their set of countries, a set of regions that they currently target, as well as the ideas of where to venture next. But I want to take a different look. So we pulled some numbers for you. This is the global Google query volume over the last 4 consecutive quarters. So let's see where we see future growth coming from. Where are the countries with the highest amount of queries? Number 1, again, that's us. Okay, kind of expected. Number 2, it's India. And number 3, it's Japan. So raise your hands if you expected that outcome. Yeah, me neither. I thought I see Europe up there. I thought I see the UK up there. I didn't expect India to be in the second place. And what that tells me is that the former emerging markets are now going to the global stage. They're entering the mature stage. Users and consumers, they're ready to buy, they're ready to purchase, they want information, they're searching. So then I ask myself, well, who's coming next? Who is the next level in line? So we had another set of numbers for you. This is the global query growth. Where do we see queries growing the fastest? It's Africa, the African regions, with way over 100% over the last 4 consecutive quarters. And that was surprising to me too. I knew it is an emerging market, but I did not expect this to be that high. And that tells me from an export perspective 2 things. There's demand. The users want to know, they want to purchase. But furthermore, the infrastructure is getting there. Without infrastructure, we wouldn't see those numbers because there's no way they could query the internet. They could use search engines. But now they do. And granted, they are a little far away from being ready to roll out, but they're coming. And one other thing, if you think about those regions, they will develop differently than we did. They will not go through all the stages from desktop and dial-up modem, raise your hand if you remember that one, laptop to cable modem to mobile and to Wi-Fi. They will enter the global stage directly on mobile devices, on tablets and on mobile phones. It needs less infrastructure. It is universally, it's very mobile. You can go wherever you want with it. And those markets will use exclusively those devices. So if you put that in your mid and long-term strategy, make sure you're ready for the mobile side of the business. Switching gears a bit. Who knows Mary Meeker's Internet Trends Reports? Comes out every year. There you go. I love it. Has lots and lots of good insights. This year's report had one interesting fact that sparked my interest. In 2013, 79% of all users were located outside of the United States, were international users. And 9 out of the top 10 internet properties were located here in the United States. I kind of expected that. I thought the number is a little higher than I thought. I thought maybe 60% outside of the United States, but okay, it's almost 80. Well, let's have a look at 2014. The number increased to 86%. But more interesting, there's 6 out of top 10 internet properties now located outside of the United States. That means your competition is coming from the global stage. You might wonder, why am I telling you this? Why would you care whether your competitor sits in Florida compared to Italy? Well, I tell you why you should care. Who remembers who was number 3 on the slides of the top 3 exporters? Germany. Do you remember with how much? Very good. Gold star. $1.5 trillion. Compared to the US, we have 1.6. So for all intents and purposes, let's call this even. We're exporting equal amounts. But if you look at the size of the country and the economy, there's a huge difference. We are bigger, we have a bigger economy, yet Germany exports at the same rate. So why is that? Well, one part is they have a smaller economy, so they need to go outside of their own country to grow and to expand. The second part is export, dealing with foreign countries, with different languages, different cultures, is something that comes very natural to those countries because they have such close proximity. In Europe, if you step out of your door, you drive 3 hours in either direction, you hit at least one country, sometimes even 2. So when those companies enter the global stage, they know the game better than we do. Because to be honest, when we export from the United States, and we export a lot, $1.6 trillion worth, but we still feel and do it in a very domestic, a very traditional way. A little bit like the desktop and the laptop and then the mobile devices. We go through all the stages. Other countries, they're like the emerging markets. They jump on the export train with far more knowledge about foreign cultures and languages, and they understand better than we do. So this is why this is an important fact. Digital world. We heard a lot about mobile earlier today, about where the world is going, about video, how important all the micro moments are. And we heard about tech B2B, that Now tech B2B is finally catching up with all those moments. So the consumer led the way, and now the tech B2B space is treading along. I have another number for you, 3,018 hours. You might wonder what that is all about. So our research partner, GWI, they had another survey out, international business leaders. And they found that business leaders internationally spend 8.2 hours a day online, which equals 3,018 hours a year. That means your target audience, the business leader you would like to reach, you need to reach, who purchase your products, who buy your services, spend 8.2 hours a day online. So you need to be global, and you need to be online too, because they are. And that number actually astonished me a lot, and I had to double check it because I thought that cannot be true, but it is. So time, everything is moving faster. The economy is moving faster, we're growing faster. And I thought about what would be a good analogy for that. And I came up with a train. Global business is like a train. For 20 years, we tried to push this out into the global market and say, okay, here you go. And we did it. In the beginning, it was slow moving. And then it picked up speed. So let me give you an example. Hilton. Who can tell me how many years did it take Hilton to become a global player? Just shout out some years. 20, 25? Pretty good. 24. It took them 24 years. Okay, pop quiz number 2. Airbnb. How many years did it take them to achieve the same goal? Huh?
1.
Did you see that before? Yeah, you're right, 1 year. 24 against 1 year. You might say, well, but times were different back then. Things are moving slower, and internet wasn't what it is today. That is exactly the point. We cannot continue to do things we did 24 years ago. Coming up with a train analogy again. So Hilton had the steam train, while Airbnb had to deal with the bullet train, stopping very shortly in a little corner of the world, and they had to get on very quickly. If they had done it the way Hilton did, they might have ended up as some other companies we all know. Research in motion. We all know the BlackBerry. Who here had a BlackBerry, by the way? Yeah. Didn't you guys love it? Wouldn't you love to have the standby and battery time on your smartphone that you had on your BlackBerry? They had a very good product. But when the smartphone train stopped in their station, whether they decided not to get on or they misjudged how much time they had to change, they missed it. And now they're in catch-up mode. Companies suffered, and right now they're trying to put a smartphone out. Whether they're successful, we will see. On the other side, we have Dunkin' Donuts. So now you may wonder, okay, Dunkin' Donuts, what's that all about? Very traditional American company. It doesn't get more American than coffee and donut, right? Well, what many people don't know, they are a very successful global brand. They have over 3,100 stores in over 30 countries outside of the United States. They not only opened stores and said, okay, we need to be internationally present, they embraced it. They embraced it with everything that comes with it, including inventing things like the Russian d'Enclair, or in Lebanon, they have the mango chocolate donut, because that's what locals wanted to eat. And they are very successful while they're doing it. So where does that leave us today? If we think about the train analogy again, if we feel we missed one, is that bad? Is that the end of our journey? Are we done now? No, of course not. There's always the next train. For research in motion right now, there's the smartphone 2.0, and they're trying to get on that train. But what's important is those trains, those moments, the developments will come quicker and quicker. And the moment to decide whether you want to be part of it, whether it's export, a new product, a new development, that time will shrink. So you need to do your due diligence ahead of time. You need to be ready. You need to be prepared. You need to understand what it would take. You need to know where the train is going before it stops. And then decide, do I want to be part of that development or not? Hopefully you will be, and then you have time to get on the train. And export is one of those areas where you need to think about the regions that might come up in the future. For example, Africa. Is that something that interests you as a company? And how do you do this? Think about mobile. Think about how those countries develop. And coming back to the challenge of going international and going global, it's a lot to do. It's like a big puzzle. Let us help you. Our team, the Global Expansion Team, which I'm part of, is already working with a lot of you, and we will continue to do so. We will help you making those decisions, giving you all the insights that you need. But we want to do a little bit more. My colleague Rachelle will walk you through our fantastic Tech B2B consumer research study that is brand new and has some fantastic insights and data. And for any questions, we will have breakout sessions later, so write them down and we'll be happy to answer them. Rachelle.
Thanks, Sanne. So Sanne just painted this amazing opportunity that everyone in this room has. And so we thought we'd take you through now the research study, or the science behind all the sense. And before I get into that, our amazing MC said, hey, Rachelle, it's a good idea to tell them about our partners since they're used to some of the local partners. So to conduct this study, we actually worked with a company called Global Web Index. I know Sanne just referenced them as GWI, and that's what they're known in the research world. And the reason we chose them is they reach over 33 markets, so they're very international, and more importantly, they could actually survey the B2B people out there, and most importantly, obviously, researchers and purchasers. We were able to get 8 shy of 2,900 respondents in 3 regions and 17 countries. So this is a very extensive survey. And today we're really going to show you the global researcher or the global buyer, and then have a few breakouts within the various regions. However, you can work with your partners at Google, and they can provide regional data, cuts within service industries, so website services, what's going on there. So make sure you follow up with them, and we will also answer some of the questions in a minute. So the first section, I know we heard Mike talk a lot about video. And so we thought, let's start with video and what's going on in the world of global. And one of the things we found that the global researcher is actually thinking about 3+ brands in the decision process. So when they're going out there starting to think, hey, I want to buy or invest in new infrastructure, they're actually thinking beyond what they do in the States. Our survey data in the States show about 2+ brands. And they are digital. Over 80% of the researchers stated that they turn to the digital platform to actually find their research, and this is where they're turning to. And more importantly, video. Video actually plays an important role in the world of research. And a lot of people are like, Rachelle, is that really the case? I mean, it's global. Aren't they just doing other things? But yes, they're utilizing video. And more importantly, if they use video, we see up to an 18% lift globally of purchasing the product. So here they've been able to see your product, learn more about it, and we saw the lift. And in APAC, there was actually a 32% lift. So just think about the importance of the content you're putting out there. So going back to the gut check, this is actually internal Google data, and we were able to see of the top 5 tech B2B exporters, there were over 25 million minutes watched in the last 365 days. Now it is highly concentrated in the States, but look at LATAM, 6.3. Even in Europe, 1.9 million minutes watched in 365 days is a lot of video, and that's all B2B content. So what should you be thinking about with your video or content strategy as you walk away from today? Really think about, how do you teach your customers about your products? How can you say something that almost acts as a salesperson or agent within the content, but still being real? And we have a couple examples. Citrix did a great job. I know we referenced Citrix before, in really utilizing the playlists in YouTube to make them countrywide. So here's Citrix Netherlands. And as you can see, it beautifully lays out various videos that would relate to someone in that region. Japan. IBM has done a great job thinking about the country and actually creating country channels. And as we all know, this is a country we really need to localize for. And they were able to, place what they believe that audience cares about most. The other important thing is something that Mike spoke about, and it's the fact that we can influence through emotion or entertainment. And I'm going to play this clip for you just to give you an idea of what HCL did to really bring the contract, a basic contract that everyone could be bored to death about, and bring it to life. So could you please play the clip?
That this contract dated as of the 15th day of October 1993 is hereby entered into between Calvin Moore, son of Kevin Moore, and Tyler Moore, son of Calvin Moore, resident of 219 Birch Court, hereinafter referred to as parties. The parties hereby covenant and agree as follows: that Calvin Moore henceforth shall be called the first party, shall give a gift every year on the day of the birth of the second party. The gift shall not exceed the value of $49. That such gift shall be null and void in case the second party does not follow the express instructions of the first party. The first party shall narrate one story every night to the second party. However, such story shall not be narrated more than 10 minutes every day. Furthermore, this requirement shall be null and void in the event that the first party is traveling for work. In witness thereof, the parties hereto have hereunto caused this agreement to be executed by their duly authorized representatives on the day and year first herein above mentioned. Signed by the first party and the second party.
So HCL did a fabulous job trying to reach the B2B person and really pull at your heartstring. And more importantly, they saw this as a great opportunity to go local. It was fairly easy to localize, and they decided to reach out to, or localize for 4 countries. So they placed it in Japanese, Polish, German, and Spanish. And from there, they were able to see growth from the global 2000, I guess it's the global 2000, they went from 300 people just engaging in their website to over 3,000. So they really wanted to hit those markets, and they saw that happen. And our study showed this is really important. In EMEA, over 75% of global researchers prefer to have localized content. And in LATAM, it's over 86%. So again, if you really think about the emotion and localizing it, you can have great impact. Another thing to think about, and I know Jay mentioned I've done content marketing in the past, we do a lot of great content in our world, but we forget to amplify it. So we build this great video or this great piece, and it just sits there. So really think about different ways you can amplify it. If you're working with Google, some of the things would be TrueView, making sure you're discoverable in search, allowing for engagement with various people, but think about that just in general in your marketing scheme. And then finally, as a marketer, you need to think about measurement. And this can be one piece of content that you want to get out there. How many people actually watch that video? Can you guess how many people watched the video we just saw? Anyone? Yeah, it was over 2 million people actually watched the video and engaged it. And they were able to increase subscribers as well. So just really think about pulling it together. Yes, it was out there, but just think about what is your strategy and then how are you going to measure it, because obviously video would be different than another type of content you're placing out in the atmosphere. So next, mobile. We heard a lot about mobile. And as you know, mobile is being utilized more and more with North America, but it's also utilized globally. And we've seen that it's actually 1.6 times more likely for a global researcher to utilize video in the journey, or mobile in the journey, than in the States. And if you break it down, APAC actually a little higher with 1.8, EMEA a little less, but still higher, and then, as you can see, LATAM. So what are they doing? They're going to their mobile phone. What are they utilizing with it? Well, they're using search. They're actually going to your sites. They really care about the brand websites. They're looking up product information, and they're comparing features. So this is just some of the things that you're thinking about, wow, what should my mobile content speak to, and what should be going on there? We did another gut check. So what is the query growth just going on? And we saw that it's over 47% globally within our B2B keyword set. So again, we're seeing the trends go towards mobile. So what should you be doing when you're thinking about mobile and global? Well, the first thing is think about the discovery phase and what you want to teach them and how you want to teach them. And a lot of mobile still does speak back to advertising. So make sure you're there when they're in the journey of search. Make sure your brand surfaces. Think about utilizing video and really think about if they're reading content, make sure your brand's there because they're researching something and you want to make sure that they're thinking, hey, I really need to buy something from GE, or hey, Salesforce, I should be thinking about that. Speaking of which, you want to also drive them to great experiences. And Salesforce came to mind because I went through various B2B companies. I was trying to figure out if I'm a global researcher and I want to see product or find something out, what is the delivery and what is the experience? And as you can see, they have the world tour in Paris. So if you go to their French website, you can learn all about that. In Spain, they direct you to a video. There's always, you can call them, contact information, and then in Japan, you can actually surface through 3 different areas to learn more about their products, et cetera. So again, coming back to measurement, it's all the typical total reach and views, but you should really think about assist and cross-device conversion. How is mobile really assisting in the journey and pushing people closer to the finish line where they purchase your products? So story number 3, let's listen and localize. And this really comes down to what's going on in the world of search. And when we looked at our keyword sets, there were 77% of all searches for electronic components came outside North America. And 81% came outside of North America for software and services. We also found that these researchers are extremely aggressive, and 1 in 3 will query over 4+ times a day. So they're out there trying to find those bits and pieces of information so they can bring it back, talk about it with their research. So what are they researching? So when they're out there, they really are caring about value. If your product is there, will it give us value? They're all price concerned, just like we are in this room. Customer support, probably like all of us. Service guarantees, and ease of use. And if you break it down within the different regions, EMEA and LATAM, it's all about value. And APAC really cares about customer support. And again, all of these are above 80%, so they all mean a lot, but it's just important to see the nuances and what's going on. So what should you be doing if you're thinking about a search strategy and all the stuff that's going out there? It's really to tailor your content to really reach them for what they care about. And a great example here, let me go back, is showcasing value and pricing. So I was able to pull from Zoho the fact that they use the words unbeatable value. And in pricing, Rackspace has request a quote. It was really hard to find many B2B companies that had the price in the search when you're searching, but at least it answers request a quote today. The other thing they're doing is they're actually purchasing from their laptop or computer. So 1 in 2, so that's over 50% we saw. And I think that's something that's a little bit of a misnomer. People think, oh, it is all about the conversation and the sales, but it is happening digitally as well. And more importantly, they care about local currency and payment options. So I was doing a lot of research trying to find a great example, and GoDaddy was able to put it in, this is for their Brazil site, but showing it in Brazilian reals, and they really are sitting there talking to the customer. And they also have a local phone number too. So think about those things just when you're thinking, okay, my 3 top markets are, let's say, Spain, Brazil, and France. So think about localizing just in those and see how it goes. And again, measurement. What should you be thinking about when it comes to measurement? Again, because mobile is global and mobile is a search assistant cross-device, but more importantly, start thinking about the micro conversions. Are they downloading your white papers? Are they watching a video? Are they requesting for more information? The macro conversions, are they actually converting? Calls, are they chatting with your customer service representatives via digital? And then obviously offline sales. So this is probably my favorite chapter of the event, and it's lifetime value. And we're not going to talk as much about measurement, but more about the customer and what it means to keep the customer happy once you have them. And Forrester recently released this study that showcased that the companies that focused on the customer experience were going to outperform the market beyond. And as you can see, they put the customer experience leaders versus S&P 500, and then those who didn't focus on the customer at all. And we all have those like yin and yang, what should we focus on? But that alone tells us the customer is so important. But more importantly, when we were looking at the research, 76% of global B2B researchers and purchasers will reevaluate their purchase decision after a year. So they could, as soon as they're your customer, they can walk away. And I was talking to Sanne about that, and we were saying, why is this going on? And one of the things that she really surfaced, which I thought was very sensible, is the fact that within a year, your products are probably not as entwined with all the systems and the software as it would be 3 years down the line. So it's easier to pull out and try to put something else in to that process than it would be later on. And if you look, LATAM obviously is over 85%. So again, they really think about reevaluating. So what should you do? And this is very sensible, but you really need to think about, how do you connect with your current customers? How do you keep them happy? How do you make them loyal? How do you make them your sales agent in many ways? So one of the things to think about, and Autodesk did this great job, is to create a sense of community. And if you can see their example, they actually have their community driving this. So you can find answers to things that you're trying to work through, or common issues, give solutions, and also just idea stations. And what we saw from our research is that 58% of the purchasers will recommend your product if they're satisfied. So how do you keep them satisfied and think about what they need? The next is really staying connected after the transaction. So FedEx does an amazing job of creating this amazing content that you can read. It's actually about global expansion and international business. And you can go and learn about what your peer set's dealing with. How are they handling different things? And really staying in touch with their customer, not saying ship now. They're just saying, I want to be part of your journey. And I think that's a great thing to do. The other thing, Home Depot. So we've had two home examples, Lowe's first, but this is actually for Home Depot Pro, so it's for the B2B contractor, let's say. And they were written up for really getting to the root of what a B2B person needs when it comes to building a home or building a project. And you're able to see the list of what you purchased before. You're able to save anything you'll need for your current project. You can source invoices quickly, etc. So it's really an ease of use and simple, but it's making the world a simpler place for contractors. Another thing to do, think about how-to content. I was searching the various YouTube channels abroad, and it was very hard to find how-to content for B2B products. And over 53% of researchers and purchasers utilize this type of content. So the fact that they're looking for, how do I set up GoToMeeting? This was one of the only examples I could find that weren't, I would say, people who are hijacking your brands to try to show people how to use them. So think about that in your mix. And capture customer testimonials. GE did a great job of grabbing a testimonial from one of their customers and really getting it out there. And 1 in 4 will post a review after purchase, so find out which ones are great and let them work for you. So with lifetime value, really think about upselling the current customers. What is the total lifetime value? Can you increase that value, etc. So Sanne is going to come back up to the stage while I recap, just so we can answer a couple questions over the next couple minutes. But really think about content. Think about the content you're placing in front of them. Mobile, making sure that mobile's part of the discovery journey. And if you're entering an area or a region, how do you localize for that? Listen to their needs. And not only look at our research, ask the local offices. Do you think people will care if the call center is in India versus the hometown, etc.? And customer experience. Really think about the customer that you win over and try to keep them, because that's half the journey. So without further ado, we'll take a couple questions, and then after, Sanne is actually leading 2 breakout sessions this afternoon. Yes. So we'll have even more time then.
Yeah, 1 o'clock and 2 o'clock.
Yes. Any questions? No? Oh, yes.
Just a quick question on the localization. When somebody's searching and they're doing the queries, are they searching in language? And then if it's in language, where are you driving them to? Because we come up with that issue a lot where they say, oh, they want, we'll serve a banner in language, but we're driving them to an English landing page.
Yeah, that's a good question. Thank you. Tech B2B is a little different. In Tech B2B, a lot of the keywords, the industry-specific keywords are actually left in English for most countries. Why is that? I mean, we invent words by the minute, and even here in the US, it's hard for us to catch up. So many countries decided, no, we don't bother localizing or finding our own words for it. Some are, and usually they have deeper roots. So if you use a word that has already a place in that language, then this country tends to use the localized version. But many of the tech keywords are actually in English. It differs though when you think about the campaigns and the landing page. Even though someone in Germany might look for cloud, because that's actually the German word for cloud, is cloud, they just adopted that word, they will expect that the ad and the landing page are in German. France is a different kind of country. They, I think, localize about 95% of all the tech B2B keywords because they don't like English. But many other countries, and that's putting it mildly, I know. But many other countries, they're very happy in utilizing the keywords, but then the step afterwards, the homepage, the landing page, and the ads, they need to be localized.
Yeah. So that's the time we have now, but we will be at the breakout session and look forward to meeting you there. Thank you.
Thank you. Pictures as well. You could click up here.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, both of these guys will be there. So was that helpful? Or who's exporting in the room, just to make sure we have the right room? Who's doing business or wants to do business outside of the United States? Wonderful. Oh, a little late to join the export party over here. Love it. Thank you. So a couple things I thought was interesting. I thought a lot of things were interesting, but 85 trillion addressable market, right? So we do a lot of that, right? When you're researching where you want to go, and Seth, feel free to start setting up. That's perfect. Is it an addressable market, right? Are there dollars there? When you look at 85 trillion coming off of 26 trillion, right? 3 times that by 2025, I would argue there's an addressable market out there for your business, right? And I think some of the insights that our teams can provide you can really help you understand where that is. I thought when Sanne was talking about those 3 African markets, right? Mayotte, some of these markets, I can imagine how unique they are relative to India. The other example. So India has the size, and there's plenty of nuance there. But think of Mayotte. I actually learned, preparing for today, it's French-speaking. It's an archipelago near Madagascar, right? You talk about local nuance. You talk about breaking into a market and having to understand what's going on localization-wise. I think that would be a pretty challenging market if anybody wants to enter there. Thought about the 8 hours per day online. For business leaders was remarkable. I think to see that consistent across the globe is really exceptional. And Sanne, I love the analogy of the steam train versus the bullet train, right? Because I think there's a lot to be said there. One of my favorite expressions is the best day to plant a tree was 50 years ago, right? The second best day is today. So how do you apply that to your business when you're thinking about some of the things that you learned today and how you can apply them potentially when you get back? But I also think about our polarities exercise that I did at the very beginning of the day, like easy versus hard, right? Like English terms versus completely localized. And it really plays into your strategy when you think about, quote, low-hanging fruit abroad and where you can go into the UK and Australia and other predominantly English-speaking countries easiest, right? And we have a lot of tools to help you kind of understand which terms are already going to resonate in that market. So with that, and to keep us on schedule, I want to introduce one of my favorite creatives, someone that I think is going to be very dynamic and get you guys excited about moving into lunch about how to build iconic brands. I want to introduce Seth Barron. Seth?
Thanks so much, Jay.
Sure.
All right, I have the dubious task of talking to you right before a lunch break and to condense what's usually about an hour of pontification into an amazing 10 minutes. And I'm going to try to prove a hypothesis, which is that being on the creative side of what we do, and I'll talk about that at Google, I'm a bit of a heretic, and I'm going to start this point because I know there's a room of B2B marketers, that we like to talk about data-driven decisions at Google. It's like a thing you hear Googlers say. We talk about scale and data-driven decisions. And I just think that's a fallacy. Human beings are not data-driven decision makers. We are emotional, irrational creatures of passion, and the biggest decisions we make in our lives are the least rational. And I'll talk about why I think that matters for you guys a lot. So by way of introduction, I'm Seth. I'm going to admit that I've been at Google for 13 years and done a bunch of different stuff here. These days, I lead a team that we call Creative Business Partnerships inside a team called The Zoo. And The Zoo, why do we have this crazy team called The Zoo? What are we here to do? Why should you care? The quick answer is that we are a creative think tank for brands and agencies. As we've seen our business evolve, one of the things that we've learned is it's really, 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 really hard to keep up with all the stuff Google is doing. And we've definitely also seen that as we've pushed our business into beyond the performance sphere of search, a creative point of view for brand marketers has a lot of value. And so we're here to be a think tank for you guys. We're not here to take the place of agencies in any way. We're here to augment the work. And the easiest way to think about it is that we do two things fundamentally. We co-create big ideas. We want to dig in and help you guys solve the most big fundamental problems that you're facing, where a creative solution is what can really help you break through. And we digitally amplify big ideas. So there's times when you know you've got this story to tell, but you don't know how to express it in the digital world. Well, Google has all these amazing tools and platforms that you can use, and we exist to help you do that in really fun, amazing, creative ways. So another way of saying that is everybody's on the road to Shitsville, and how do you get on the road to epic glory? Right? Because the definition of insanity is doing the same thing over and over again and expecting different results. So when you see the media plan you saw last time, when you see the same thing that you saw last time, when your creative agency says, here's the big idea, and they show you a storyboard, I'm going to tell you you're on the road to Shitsville. Right? If you want to do something different, then call me. Because we live in an age of digital revolution, right? Everything's changing daily. No, it's changing by hourly. No, it's changing by the minute. No, it's changing by the second, right? We must go faster. Must go faster. Cannot stop. Get up, you don't stop, because I ain't gonna. And that's the world we live in. That's the truth. Those are the given circumstances. What worked yesterday will not work tomorrow. If you're not investing in the revolution, you're late. Because what this is all about, right? This is about user choice. How many people in this room have a DVR? Yeah, if you still subscribe to cable, most people, you're being shy. It's okay, you're afraid I'm gonna heckle you. I will. But how many of you guys spend the vast majority of your money on TV? The answer is a lot of you. The answer is how many of you actually watch the commercials that you pay a shit ton of money to produce? The answer is none of you. So what you need to think about is relevant, contextual, compelling, and authentic content, not advertising. Advertisers are 20th century. Content creators and people who drive user engagement is 21st century. That's the world we live in today. Because ads are just things that get in the way of the stuff that we care about. Content is the stuff that we care about. And we don't care if brands make it, right? We just care that it's stuff that we care about. So as long as you've got a right to talk about it, the answer is tell a really exciting and compelling story. And I think it's funny in this business, you see these memes that go through this industry, and one of them that we've seen right now is storytelling. Brands and storytellers, content marketing, all these buzzwords, and it's all the same shit. I'm just another hack in a million years of people who've been doing this, literally thousands. Because anyone with a modest Western education can identify what story this is, yes? Like I said, I'm going fast because I got to get through it, but it's Romeo and Juliet. Why am I talking to B2B marketers about Romeo and Juliet? It's a story on its surface about a 14-year-old girl and a 15-year-old boy falling in love in a walled city in Italy set in the 1500s, written by a white guy in the 1600s. Who cares? Right? Who cares, who cares, who cares? But it was on Broadway last season with Orlando Bloom. Right? It's been expressed and re-expressed and re-expressed in all these different ways. Because it's not a story about those things. It's a story about bigger truths of our humanity. About wanting to fall in love, right? If you remember at the beginning of the story, Romeo is joking with his mates and playing around with their swords in the town square about how he's bragging about what a great lover he is, having never been a lover. But then he falls in love and he experiences the lightning bolt of love. And then we watch as Romeo and Juliet experience the pain of love. Those experiences are true for every single one of us in this room one way or another. They're true across time, culture. They're deeply rooted in our collective unconscious. And the structure of these stories is the same, again, like I'm the latest in thousands of years of hacks who talk about this stuff, right? Like a story just looks like this. This is like 8th grade English or earlier. There's this story arc with a protagonist who propels action forward, an antagonist, and a conflict that gets created. And there's 3 conflicts. There's no new stories. Person against person, person versus nature, person versus self. That's it. And then you create this moment of that crisis and climax where hopefully you have epiphany, the sudden realization of greater truth. And then in the resolution is catharsis, the emotional release of resolution. Now, I will be totally transparent. I also teach Googlers how to pitch. And one of the things I talk about is, as a pitch, just tell a story, guide people to a moment of epiphany. And I'm saying this to you guys as marketers because you're pitching every day. That's what your ads are, right? Guiding your users to a moment of epiphany of, oh my God, that's the thing I didn't even realize. But the catharsis is so critical because it's the emotional space for people to say yes. Yes, I will buy that, in our case. And for what you do, I think it's even more interesting. Because this is Maslow's hierarchy of needs, and to me, what's so interesting about B2B, and I think the big missed opportunity for most of you, frankly, is that you think you over-intellectualize what you're doing, frankly. But the reality is that you talk about things that are way down here at the basement, like things like safety and security. These are deeply fundamental subject matters that have rich emotional territory for you. And I would argue that the more effectively you make that emotional connection with users, and you just saw it in the last presentation, proven with data that I don't even have, right? Like that emotional connection as a customer service leader drives business impact. And so as you think about the stories that you tell, we don't pay as much attention. It's much harder to break through when you're up at the top of that pyramid. It's complex, it's a much more removed story versus talking about the things that are the basement of that pyramid where we make the deepest, richest, most emotional connections. So, a few thoughts on being iconic. You have to start with iconography. As in, like, nothing is iconic out of context, and great brands define themselves as iconic, and I'll try to make a postulate as to why. But so a quick example, I usually do this as more Q&A, right? I get to talk about Madonna in a B2B presentation, which is really fun. This is Madonna in Diamond, I'm now getting all my metaphors wrong, or the references wrong. This is Madonna in Material Girl, thank you. She hates the song, by the way. And this video was like this really iconic moment in Madonna's career, but it was a total ripoff of, since you had the first one, what was it? Do you know what she's ripping off? Marilyn. Okay, in Gentlemen Prefer Blondes, Singing Diamonds Are a Girl's Best Friend. Those are all my references. Now we're back. And we don't think of Marilyn Monroe as a hack. She's iconic in her own right. We don't think of Madonna as a hack. She's iconic in her own right. But she totally ripped off that aesthetic in this moment that we think of as iconic in her career. So what's going on? And the answer is archetype. These are 2 definitions that are decent. Whoop, going back. Archetype is, I like the Jung definition that's going to come up here, the inherited idea or mode of thought in the psychology of Jung derived from the experience of race and present in the unconscious of the individual. Archetype are the characters in the stories that are told and retold over and over and over again. And if you want to be an amazing marketer and you've never talked about archetype, then I suggest you should do so. Read some Joseph Campbell, it's really worth it, right? Understand that these stories persist through time and culture in ways that are much bigger than any of us. And when you as a brand understand who you are in the life of your user, so it's more than just what you make, right? Because guess what, we don't care about things. Like as human beings, fundamentally. We don't care about widgets, we don't care about like rack-based cybersecurity, like we don't care about that shit, right? We actually don't. We care about stories that are about people. Those are the stories that connect to us really deeply. And great brands do this. So I'm gonna go through like one super quick case of a brand I think that's doing this in a really interesting way, which is Watson and IBM. So this is the Watson logo. I'm not going to do the Q&A of like, dude, what is this? So Big Blue, right? They've been on a huge pivot of their brand. They've had to shift away from a lot of consumer marketing now to this business-to-business marketing, and they've done some really, really cool shit. The first is a piece of content that I found that was a couple years old, but really sort of blew my mind in thinking about like the perception I have of this brand. Have you guys seen this? This is the world's smallest stop motion video. So they literally made a stop motion movie at an atomic level to make a point about their computing technology and storage technology, understanding literally at the atomic level how these things work. So I'm gonna skip it, but it's really cute and you should totally watch it. But then they did this. Right, we all remember this moment of Ken Jennings getting defeated by Watson. And I love, do you see what Jennings wrote? I, for one, welcome our new computer overlords, which I think was terribly funny and terribly witty. And IBM, they took a big risk on doing something like this, right? It's hugely consumer facing. It probably spent a shit ton of money to do it. I had no idea if it was gonna help drive their business, but you've seen they're not afraid. One of the other things that distinguishes great iconic marketers is that they are consistent in who they are over time, right? So IBM and Watson, they know exactly who they are. They know exactly who they want to be, the role they play in our lives as users. And then they continue to express that. And this is some really fresh creative that I'll show. Have you guys seen this one yet? Yeah, got pretty good press. Then I'll sort of keep going. But like, who would ever think to put Bob Dylan in a computer commercial? I can't believe Bob Dylan did a computer commercial. I must need some money.
My analysis shows your major themes are that time passes and love fades.
That sounds about right.
I have never known love.
Maybe we should write a song together.
I can sing.
You can sing.
Do bebop, bebop a do. Doobie doobie doo. Do, doobie doo.
So it's this like fun little moment. Again, I'm a little disappointed in Bob Dylan's song now, don't I? But again, like it creates a different. All of a sudden, it personalizes this sense of technology, this like computer overlord of Watson, in a way that again I think makes IBM really stand out to us as users, and helps us humanize that brand, because I think one of the things that B2B marketers tend to do is again forget that personal connection. So. The last thing I'm going to say is that I think I get asked the question a lot, like, well, how long is my video supposed to be, and what am I supposed to do? And this is my answer.
Greatness is a scary thing. Until it isn't.
So I'm happy to take any questions. Thank you guys so much. I hope this was a little bit of a different kind of perspective on a day of a lot of data and business-to-business subject matter.
Stuffy. We're not that stuffy, Seth. Come on.
I'm just trying to shake it up.
Good.
Any questions?
For Seth?
Shout them out. It's okay. Don't be shy.
Or Seth will stick around for a few minutes at lunchtime.
Sure can. All right.
All right. Thanks, Seth.
Thanks so much.
So I think we're going to try and get back on schedule. We're just a little bit off. Not a big deal. We talked about shitsville, shit ton, all kinds of new words, Seth. Thank you for that. Really bringing in that whole science and sense part that I tried to start our day with. But really take an opportunity now to network. Plenty of Googlers here if you'd like to talk to your Google team, of course, but even more importantly, I think meet your peers, meet people that are struggling to break through barriers just like you are. We'll see you back here. You're not leaving, by the way. You're just going up to get your food and come back. But we'll meet up at 1 before we go into our breakout rooms, and we start to think about some different things this afternoon. Thank you.